Welcome, everybody. It's the Thursday Night Forum, Arsenal Fan Circle here. Paul Bichero, you're all welcome, as we all say. And, Stan has returned. It's the return of the Stan. Listen, Stan. Hold on a second. Here's the thing, Stan. It was supposed to be a season where, we would improve upon last season. We would kick on. It was supposed to be a season where the best parts of the season would be we integrate players from the academy. I think we've done that, but it was supposed to be a season where we had not too many injuries. But, the reality is here we are in February, and it's looking kind of bleak right now where we haven't really reinforced heavily in the last two windows, this past January window and summer just gone. So with that being said, Stan, I mean, we're going to get into a lot tonight, everybody in the chat as well. We're going to get into a lot tonight about Manchester City and the win on Sunday. The closing, the slamming shut, as Jim White says, about the transfer window with Arsenal doing no business at all. And a feeble attempt at overturning a 2-0 deficit up at St. James's, Newcastle. Fair play to Newcastle, got to say. Over two legs, clearly better team. Take it away, Stan.
So, I just want to say hello to everyone. Thank you to those that are joining us in the chat box and those of you that listen without joining into the chat box. If you've got any questions throughout the show as well, put them in the chat box and we'll answer as we go or towards the end. And, good to be back on the Thursday Night Forum with Ray. And I suppose we're going to get into it. We've got a lot of things to discuss, as Ray mentioned. And, we'll try to keep it as sensible. We're not a channel that likes to rant and rave, but even a sensible channel, like this one, we can also be honest when things, we're not happy about things. And I think that's probably going to be, the theme of tonight's show. So where would you like to start, Captain?
Well, listen, let's start here, Stan, because Stephen, the Arsenal misfit, felt like he might not be with us tonight. He's going to be busy, but he did leave a number of comments. So let me announce all of the comments, talk through it, and then let me get your take on it, Stan. And I'll go through the whole thing, right? Hey, all, hope you're all good. Not sure if I'll make the show, but here's my 2 cents worth. This defeat over two legs is all on the manager, not the players. He set the tactics that fail, and it's the tactics that killed us. It goes on to say, we've played them 5 times since beginning of last season. We've only won once. The games we lost have all one thing in common. The thing in common they have is Arteta's failed style of slow ball progression and high ball possession. They got in front of us, and we spent 4 games running into a brick wall of well-drilled defenders. In the one game we did win, it was the second half of last season after we changed tactics and played quick football. No pissing around. We smashed them 4-1. If Arteta took that game and the recent Bournemouth 4-1, the blueprint 4-1 win, right, where they also went right at Newcastle, we would have had a much better chance of winning this over 2 legs. Can anyone explain to me why we didn't try the same thing in this cup tie, for that matter, this entire season? Even in the games we've won this season, most were a struggle. There's a lot in this we can take out of it, Stan. What manager on earth would go back to a style that failed so miserably that it had been abandoned mid-season to have any chance of winning the title? As predicted, it's even worse this season. I would love the press to ask Arteta this question because, as far as I'm concerned, there's no valid reason at all. This so-called genius of a manager, as far as I'm concerned, is very average and not capable of winning anything. And I think there's just a couple more comments here. Let me get to okay, here we go. Yeah, there's a little bit more. Stephen was putting some effort into this. How many times has he had us banging our heads on the table with starting lineups, player positions, and subs that just make you want to jump out the window in a very high building? He is all too often clueless at times, just stands there with a look of sheer confusion as to why we're not winning. All he's capable of doing is put a different player in and continue with what is failing. It does my head in. And 2 seasons ago, he won me over. Had Saliba not got hurt, we would have won. He lost me for the first 20 games of last season until he changed styles and we went on a tear and nearly won. And that was part of that was the Havertz experiment. Had we made the change of styles a month earlier, we would have won it last season. He cost us the title by waiting too long. This season, when we went right back to the same style that failed, I was pissed, but decided to give him the season. That I can no longer do. He needed to go yesterday. Um, and finally, start a manager that continues to play a style of football that doesn't suit or play to the strengths of his players is not fit to manage this or any other team. His time is up. He is not good enough. Goes on to apologize about the rant. Arteta, we deserve better than this. And then he mentions Big Sam Greenwood could do a better job. I would take him right now. So, Big Sam, to get us out of trouble, Stan. What do you think about all that?
Well, that's quite a lot to unpack. But what I would say is, I don't think Mikel Arteta, and I'm going to come on to Mikel Arteta as we go through this because he isn't totally, in my eyes, absolved for some of our misfortunes. But Mikel Arteta doesn't set the team up in a way that to go out there and not put the ball in the back of the net. And I think some of the players need to take responsibility for that. And if we're talking about the Newcastle game, over 2 legs at our place and at their place, we were unable to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yep.
Not once. And they were able to put the ball in the back of the net 4 times, let alone goals by them that are deemed offside as well. So I think the players have to take a lot of the responsibility. There are gilt-edged chances in that first leg that went begging. And for whatever reason, players weren't good enough to tuck them away. And I've said it before, and I know it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but, you see all of these training videos during the week where we've got these really tiny goals and they're able to put the ball in the back of the net, it seems like, from anywhere on the pitch. And then we get to the live match with a full-size goal and chances just seem to go begging. Maybe the goals are too big. Maybe if we had these small goals that we had in the training, then we'd be laughing. But I mean, you have to look at the Newcastle game, both legs, and scratch your head and wonder why we're not able to put the ball in the back of the net. Some people may argue that not enough chances are being created, but you can look at Newcastle, and I'll use them as the example, especially Alexander Isak. There are times when he's able to make goals for himself. He's not requiring the ball to be placed on a plate for him in the penalty box so that he can head it in or toe punt it in. He can receive the ball quite a way out from goal and have enough, wherewithal and belief in his talents and create chances for himself. And, we used to have a player many, many moons ago that could do that, and that was Thierry Henry. Yeah. Who could pull up a game by the scruff of the neck and create chances for himself without having to rely on balls being put on the plate for him.
I'll tell you what, we'll talk about Isak.
So for me, I just think that, you've got your training during the week, but it's the players that cross that white line and they are, in a way, in charge of their own game management. And I think a lot of it goes down to players. The squad is so small, and Mikel Arteta has complained that the squad is small, but he is the key reason why that's happened. He's the key reason it's down to Mikel Arteta for putting players out on loan and selling players, and then not doing enough in the transfer window to replenish those resources. And then he's complaining that we've got such a small squad. Yeah. I mean, if you look at a player like Kai Havertz, for example, before the Newcastle game, he'd already played 2,686 minutes. And that basically equates to he's already played 70% of the minutes that at this point in the season for what he played for last season. He's already on 70% of the minutes that he played for the whole season. And we're only in February.
Yeah.
And there's so much football to be played.
Yeah, and we're not even.
We've got no, and when you have we've got no variation in that attack. There is no variation.
Yeah.
Right now, it's Kai Havertz as our main striker, or nothing. If he gets injured, if he gets burnt out, any other player that we're going to be putting in there from our squad, it will be a stopgap. We've had Saka go out, unfortunately, who was our key player, and we're fortunate enough that we've got Wanieri to come in and pick up the slack on that side. But if he's picking up the slack on that side, and Martin Odegaard, for example, who's had a crisis in form, I would say, thus far in the season, he can't play in that position as well. And now Mikel Arteta is saying that, well, you know what, Winieri, he can actually play through the middle as well. He's got enough of. How many positions can he play?
He's going to say that now. He's going to say that now, Stan, because you rightly say a lot of players went out on loan. We sold a few players, and we were told, the club told us they were good. They had what they needed for the season, and it's not just this window; it's the summer window as well. You rightly mentioned Alexander Isak, and I know that you've been very high in praise of that player even before he went on this tear. Since October and November, he's just been scoring game after game after game. And he's probably the only player in the Premier League outside of Ollie Watkins, who we'll talk about as well, who have given Gabriel and Saliba very difficult games. And Alexander Isak has done it in all 3 games that we played against Newcastle this season. And we have to face Newcastle at the Emirates in the Premier League coming up. Injuries are playing a huge part in our season now. I think Martinelli is injured as well. But going back to that, Stan, you're exactly right. Mikel Arteta picks the players, but the players have to go out there and have something, between their chest plate here. They have to have some heart, that wear the badge on their sleeve with pride and fight. And we didn't see any of that yesterday. In the first leg, Martinelli hits the upright when it's 0-0. So we have a great opportunity in the first leg to take control of the tie. First goal, but then Isak goes to town on us, and Gordon goes to town on us. 2-0 down from the first leg, and again, Martin Odegaard has this chance before they score. So my feelings about this second leg, Stan, was that whoever would score the first goal would basically have the impetus in this game, and it wasn't Arsenal. Odegaard hit the post, and a lot of woodwork going on last night. Isak tears Gabriel and Saliba apart, hits the crossbar, the upright as well. The ball comes to Murphy, and Murphy's he hasn't quite got a tap in. There's a little stuff to do there, a little bit to do there, but it just goes in off the inside of the far post as well. So luck, it's not just luck. You got to take your chances when they present themselves, Stan.
Also, I just want to put a few more things into context. I've already mentioned that Kai Havertz is already on 70% of the minutes that he played last season. And it's only February, and there's a lot more football to be played. But even more astoundingly, Martinelli and Trossard are only 1 game away to go before they matched their minutes for the entirety of last season. 1 more match, and they would have played all of the minutes that they played in last season. That's unacceptable.
Wow, and we know that they shared a lot of minutes last season as well.
That's unacceptable. I don't. How are they supposed to get on through the rest of the season when that's where they are right now? So obviously performances aren't going to be as good as they could be because they're probably cream crackered by now. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable to think that, 1 match to go and they would have equaled their minutes for the entirety of last season. How are we supposed to go on the Champions League run? And how are we supposed to Liverpool with the games left to play when that is the case?
injuries. Injury stand a long-term injury to Bukayo Saka on the 21st. Get this, 21st of December. You know, so we had a full 10 days to say the transfer window is going to open. Let's do something because we know Bukayo Saka is going to be out for 3 months. Shortly afterwards, in the first week of January, Gabriel Jesus gets injured as well. We clearly do nothing about that throughout the whole window as well. Now Martinelli's injured, and to your point, Stan, Martinelli's injured. So now we have forward options of.
Is it a long? What's the status of that injury?
I
Is
don't. It
that
could
for
be
a
2 or 3 weeks.
weeks or a couple of
Could be
months? Or
two. I'm hoping 2 to 3 weeks. We're not actually sure. We haven't got anything back on that yet. But we're down to Trossard, Havertz, Waneri, and Sterling for the front three places. So Havertz is assured of playing the next game. Trossard is assured of playing the next game.
And then the only person that's going to come in to give them any kind of respite is Sterling, who thus far has not shown us anything.
Nothing.
Anything exactly. At all. And so when I look at the transfer window and I hear, fans and the manager alike saying, well, we only want to bring in a player that's going to make, that's going to move the needle, that's going to help us. I mean, it's a good sentiment to have. But when I hear that and also see that we brought in Raheem Sterling, those two, it doesn't correlate for me. It doesn't correlate because Sterling's not even really proving himself to be a stopgap or someone that can give someone a breather or even challenge for minutes. So how can that be? How can we say well, there's no real players out there that are going to lift the team. We've got the money, the funds are there, the resources are there. As I understand it, there's around about, and I'm talking pound sterling, there's around about 150 million or so that's already in the kitty. And thus far in the Champions League, we've brought in around about 75 million. So that's 220 million that is available. And even if the 75 million from the Champions League, if that hasn't even cleared yet, that check hasn't cleared yet, we can have some, surely the ownership could give us an overdraft and bring some of that money forward rather than saying, well, next season and the summer. Well, I want to win things now. We're supposed to be challenging for the title now.
Yeah.
And these injuries should have forced the hand of the club to make a move, right?
What's become pretty clear is that you won't win anything without a forward or a striker who can bag you close to 20 goals in a season. That's very, very clear now. You're not going to win anything unless you have a forward or a striker who's going to do that. Losing Bukayo Saka should have precipitated us going into the market and getting a striker. Even if you lose Gabriel Jesus for a full calendar year, surely there's a player out there standing. No disrespect to Gabriel Jesus, but there's a lot of players out there that have more minerals than Gabriel Jesus right now and can do a better job.
Well, this is another thing as well. When I hear people say, well, we didn't make any moves in the January transfer window because there was nobody out there. Well, there were a list of players that made a move in the January window. Marmoush, Matthias Tell, Daniel Malen, the guy from Napoli whose name I always have a problem pronouncing.
Carvacelli. Yeah,
that's the guy. Yeah. John Duran. Asensio, the Brazilian player. Wahi, Luis Enrique, Evan Ferguson, Xavi Simons, and Galeno.
Yeah.
That's just a handful of names that made moves in the January transfer window. There were rumors that we were talking to Matthias Tell, and even if it was a case of, well, do we want to bring in, are we ready to spend money on a 19-year-old? Maybe not. Do we want to be obligated to bring him in on loan with an obligation to buy? Maybe not. But then you look at our rivals, Spurs, they've managed to bring him in on loan with no obligation to buy. Why was we not in that conversation? If we can bring him in for loan without an option to buy, we did that with Sterling. Why couldn't we have done that with Matthias Tell? I'm not saying that he's going to move the needle, but at least we'll be able to give our main striker, Kai Havertz, a rest.
A breather. Yeah, breather.
So, and I don't understand as well. Was it Mikel Arteta that went to the States and had a meeting with Josh, or did Josh come to us? One of the two.
Josh came over here in early January, mid-January.
For what? For what? What did he
for
come
the
over for?
Derby.
For what? He could have just sent Mikel Arteta a text message and said, we ain't doing anything in January. Why did he come over and have a meeting? And to do what? And I know that a lot of people are having a go at Mikel Arteta, but he's said himself, and he's hinted on a couple of occasions that he's disappointed that we didn't do any business in January. I don't think this was a case of Josh coming over to discuss where we're going to go. And Mikel Arteta said, no. I want to wait for the summer. Let's not do anything in January. I don't think that is the case. So I understand that, from an ownership perspective, it's a business, but I don't like to see the football club being run as a business, And it does feel to me that the money that's been spent in the past windows, and I go back particularly to the Declan Rice transfer, which was for a lot of money.
18 months ago.
I'm kind of the feeling that the ownership only wanted to spend enough money to get us back into the top four, so Champions League money would come in, rather than spending enough money to actually getting us to the finish line. And that's what it really is starting to feel like to me. And if that's the case, I'm not happy with that. We've been challenging for first place now for the last 2 seasons, and we've had the juggernaut in front of us, which is Manchester City. They've fallen away this season, and we're still in second place. And somehow, Liverpool, with a new manager who hasn't had a lot of resources and hasn't gone out and bought in, loads of reinforcers. He's basically playing with Klopp's team, has managed to get them into a better place. And I just feel that, as I've mentioned, we've definitely got the resources to have done something. My fear is that the ownership just doesn't have the will to do something. It's all right having the resources, but you have to have the will. And it doesn't feel like that is the case with the current ownership.
Yeah. There are brackets of levels where you want to be. There are brackets of ambition. So a bracket of maybe try to go for top 4, but if you end up 5th, 6th, 7th, you're still in Europe, right? You're in the Europa League. There's a bracket where you want to get into the top 4, and you're not going to win the title or challenge for the title. We wonder if Arsenal is in that bracket right now. And then there's the final bracket where you want to win, the Premier League each and every year and be competing for it. And it doesn't look like the ownership has stumped up the funds, and the green light was not allowed. We'll get into that very soon now with Ollie Watkins as well and Aston Villa. Retroholic Gamer said here, Goldbridge mentioned bridesmaids always too in every department. Made me laugh as I feel that's our transfer policy. How do you expect the manager to compete when you get him his second choice all the time? Boise's in the house. Thanks for joining us, Boise. Good morning, Gooners. Most of us work 8 hours a day, 330 days a year. These players play at most 180 minutes a week. Does our manager give us a rest? And you know what? I wouldn't be taking them to Dubai on the back of that performance at Newcastle. I'd be turning them back around to Colney in February and getting back. I don't want to go. I don't want to see
Colney, and they have to wear, long johns, gloves, and a snood, and so be it. I
don't want to see any more salt.
Earned the right to be sunning themselves in Dubai
or salt by stuff. We're going to see a pickpocket in the foyer, a pickpocket in the hotel room. Stephen just got home, was listening. Why do we struggle so badly playing this god awful style? When we go for broke, we smash it like against City. The evidence is there in the games. not the players. Yeah, we had a couple of players like Miles Lewis Skelly being audacious on Sunday. One Airy feels like they were doing very on Arteta type things. Tiger and Gunnar, morning lads. Thanks for being here, Tiger. Also, Martinelli was injured last season for quite a while, and that adds up to the minutes that you were talking about, Stan. You know, where Martinelli and Trossard were sharing minutes. We should have got reinforcements, though. That's on the club. Yeah, the Cronkies and this new Jason Ato guy. I'm not getting a very good feeling for him because this whole Aston Villa debacle. Even if you believe that Aston Villa were never going to sell Ollie Watkins to Arsenal after John Duran went out stand to Saudi, we never really met a possibility where they were in a tough situation to make a tough decision. The
Well,
rumors are 40 million we offered.
Well, I just read out a long list of players that made moves in the summer. So why would you then go to the one player where he's now going to be their only remaining striker because the other one was in talks to go to Saudi Arabia? What do you think is going to happen? Do you honestly believe that they're going to sell both strikers in the one window? It really smacks to me of what West Ham used to do quite a lot of, where they would put bids in for people that they knew that they wouldn't get, so they could turn around to the fans and say, "We tried, but the selling clubs wouldn't sell." If they really wanted Ollie Watkins, they could have been talking about that before the window opened. You don't have to wait till the window opens to get your business done. I've seen other clubs go out and do deals in the middle of the season, and they know that player is coming now as soon as the window opens. And we had the resources, as I mentioned, to do that. It just seems to me, cat's tail, just seems to me that we just didn't have the will to do that business.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing. We're supposed
Ollie
to be
Watkins,
a team that is challenging for the title.
Yeah.
Ollie Watkins, I'm not sure that he fits the profile of the sort of player that we would usually go for, the age and so forth. However, I do feel that if we were able to have brought him in, again, it just gives us more depth, and he does know where the back of the net is. It's not that much of a gamble. He plays in this league. I mean, the guy is an Arsenal supporter. You know, if he gets his dream move to Arsenal, that may even help him go up a level because he's got his dream move, and he wants to ingratiate himself to the fan base and the club.
And, maybe boost his claims for in England, being England's number one preferred striker up front. You know what I mean? There's a lot of angles in this, but Arsenal never forced the issue. 40 million when he was being offered for 60 million. BX said Arsenal as a whole, Kroenke's board and Arteta look like a random John getting busted by the authorities in a dark alley with their down round by the ankles. Yeah.
I have something that I'd like to. I have something that I'd like to read out, and you know this about it, Ray, because you sent it to me. You brought this to my attention, and it sums up how I feel as a fan right now perfectly. So again, this isn't something that I wrote. I'm not as eloquent as this particular person. I'll give them a name check at the end because I don't have it here. It's a little long, so bear with me, but it does sum up to me exactly where we are as a club. So it says here, Arsenal's identity crisis is holding us back. Are we a big club that competes with PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Man City by signing world-class talent for their market value? Or are we a club that operates like Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig, or Brighton, using elite scouting to uncover hidden gems and developing them into superstars? Right now, we are neither, and that confusion is ruining our transfer strategy. Every window, we get linked to elite players, but the way we operate makes absolutely no sense. We want top ready-made talent, but then we lowball the selling club, try to negotiate weird, impossible payment structures, drag out the process for weeks, and ultimately lose the player to another club. It is the same cycle every time. We wanted Ollie Watkins from Aston Villa, but tried to negotiate instead of paying up. Rejected. We were linked to Matthias Tell from Bayern Munich, but lose out to Tottenham, who secured him on loan with an option to buy. Remember, that's not an obligation. Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig, nothing happened. And then, when it was too late, we panic and start looking at washed up players like Raheem Sterling. If Arsenal does not want to act like a big club, fine, but then at least be smart. Why are we not heavily investing in scouting like Brighton, Dortmund or Leipzig? These clubs do not waste time pretending they will spend 80 million on top talent. They find the next big thing for 15 to 20 million before anyone else does. Brighton found Moises Caicedo for 4.5 million. Dortmund signed Haaland for 20 million and Bellingham for 30 million. Leipzig signed Sesko for 24 million. We have no clear direction. We want to compete with City, but refuse to match their ambition. We do not have the scouting network of Brighton, but also refuse to act like a proper big club in the market. This identity crisis is making every transfer window painful. Either act like a big club and start paying for top talent, or fully commit to a proper scouting and development model like Dortmund and Leipzig. But this in-between nonsense is not working. No identity, no clear strategy, no reinforcements. Another wasted window, and if we fail to win anything this season, we will know exactly why. And for me, that sums it up perfectly about how we go about our business. And for a team that wants to win, you know, and get into the top league, it's not good enough. It's confusing.
Clearly.
I'm not sure what message it sends out. And if I remember rightly, didn't we, you know, a season or two ago, you know, we shredded our scouting network, didn't we?
Yeah.
We paid a lot of them off and literally shredded
Coming
them.
out of COVID.
And that what I read out sums Arsenal up at the moment perfectly.
Yeah, we are not even at a high level Brighton, as you reference in that piece, Stan, written by somebody else that I sent to you. We are not a Brighton. We're not even a high class Brighton. A player such as Alexander Isak, we're talking about 2 years ago, he was not the striker that he is now. You mentioned admiring
the person
him.
that wrote that, by the way, I just want to name check them. The person that put that so well is on Twitter they're called Geo with a G at Geo Words. Words has a Z. Give him a follow, because I think that whoever that person is, he really summed it up in a very good way. And I've read that a couple of times, and I find it difficult to argue with any of the points that he made.
Yeah. We're not, the only time we acted as a big club is maybe Declan Rice, when we had put a lot of groundwork
because we wanted to get back into the CL to keep that CL money coming in. Their hand was forced.
Yep.
Right? The hand was forced.
We're not a high class Brighton. We could have speculated on an Alexander Isak. We could have speculated on a Guimaraes at the time. Both of them went to Newcastle. And
we dragged our feet. We could have had Isak for £63 million, even though I think his buyout clause was higher than that. Newcastle managed to negotiate a deal and bring him in for 63 million. We dragged our heels.
Yeah,
Instead, we spent more than that, a couple of million more, and brought in Kai Havertz. Now,
and the premium.
I'm not going to use Kai Havertz as a scapegoat.
Yeah,
he does a lot of hard work for the team. However,
well, let me tell you one thing, Stan. Let me tell you one thing, Stan. A couple of years ago, we could have gotten an Alexander Isak for a similar price that we bought Kai Havertz for. This
Cheaper.
season,
Cheaper.
this
His
window,
wages are a lot cheaper, right? His wages are a hell of a lot cheaper as well.
this window
Which he has.
potentially, whether we want to believe it or not, we could have had an Ollie Watkins for 60, 65 million as well. You know, if at least make Aston Villa decide at least not necessarily unsettle the player, but the player wants to play for Arsenal, has stated it, and
Could have got Tielemans for free.
We never really gave him a sleepless night. We never really, made it feel like we were going to come and get him. But those two players,
could have got Tielemans for free. For free.
Yeah, those are the players that we could have been a bit more, canny. We could have been a bit more canny in the market about that. Now that's a high class Brighton. We could bring a player like Isak in and groom him. And now you mentioned Thierry Henry and the similarities that Isak has in his game. Now we're seeing a physicality in Isak, where we're seeing skills, we're seeing a direct play, all of which we remember from seeing Thierry Henry in his pomp at Arsenal. And I'm not comparing directly, but we have the most similar player in the Premier League to Thierry Henry up at Newcastle now. And, fair play to them. They beat us. I hope they do go on and win the trophy now.
Yeah, me too. Obviously I've got my family connections with Newcastle as well. Yeah, I'd like to see them lift that trophy. But at the end of the day, we were unable to score a goal against them in 2 legs, over 2 legs. And so I look at our Champions League fixture with Milan, and I panic. I worry.
Inter Milan are the one. Are we playing Milan? Maybe.
Yeah, I think Milan is our fixture, right? Is it? It's Inter Milan, isn't it?
It's going to be AC Milan, Juventus, or Feyenoord, or PSV Eindhoven.
Is it AC Milan or Inter? I was getting mixed up. We got one
AC.
of them. We've been picked with Milan.
Sure. Yeah.
Is it AC? Okay. Well, we've been picked with them.
We have to wait for the knockout stages to figure out who we're going to have. Let's get through a few comments.
It's already been drawn, hasn't it? I thought it had been drawn. I saw them picking the balls out of the.
Yeah, we will play. We will play the team who comes out of those 4 teams that play off. So we will play either Milan or PSV Eindhoven or Juventus, or what's the other one I mentioned?
Is it Feyenoord?
Feyenoord, one of those. I'm not sure. I think it was a Dutch team. But yeah, that is the one benefit to what we have done in this first half of the season, finishing the top 8 of the Champions League. Nick Wilson said, I know we wanted a striker in January. However, Arteta has been back by the Chronicles and paid 65 million for Havertz and 40 for Jesus. It's not the Chronicles' fault that they are not good enough.
Question, is that the Nick Wilson? Is that the Nick Wilson that I've done a few pods with, over with Danny on a Birdcap Wonderland, the gamer? Let me know in the chat box. Good to see you if it is.
Yeah. The one thing, though, we have to ask the Cronkies for when Jesus goes out injured for a ruptured cruciate ligament. It's going to be 12 months. We need to go do something about it. BX said poor planning and preparation yet again when a manager is predictable and one-dimensional. Miss Melina in the house. Evening, Miss Melina. Hope you're doing well. Last summer was the big summer to take us over the line, and we choked. Yeah, listen. Last summer I thought we were padding our depth as well. Okay, Calafiori. I'm not adverse to Calafiori. Mourinho. Hopefully, we'll see the benefit to him in coming seasons. But a striker, somebody better than Raheem Sterling. We were crying out for that. We should have won the last 2 titles in this year. It should be 3 in a row. I'm hoping, Boise, I'm still hanging in there with 14, 15 games left in the season, but we got to start chipping away at the deficit. 6 points.
I'm just worried that Kai's not going to be able to see all of that out. Yeah. And then we're going to be looking for a makeshift. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be someone else, not really their position. You know,
I would. We have a striker. We have an academy striker, and I hate to say this, but this is the kind of player who could be coming on for 10 or 15 minutes to spare Kai Havertz 10 or 15 minutes at the end of games. Ojeji or something is his name.
even someone like an Asensio, you know, we could have got someone like him on loan, who's not a player that I would say that we should put all of our eggs in the basket and go out and buy, but someone that can come in and give Kai a little bit of rest when needed in games.
Nick Wilson. Nick Wilson has replied, Stan, that it is indeed him.
Right, Nick, good to see you, mate. Thanks for popping in and joining us.
Should have given Evan Ferguson a go on loan.
The only problem there is with Evan Ferguson is that we can now, because of the loans that we've already made within the UK, we can only make a loan from outside of the UK. Now, we couldn't bring in Evan Ferguson, you know, but, you know, we decided to bring in people like Neto and Raheem Sterling. And so
I think when
Evan Ferguson is just, sorry?
Nick is saying when it comes to Tal, Man United, Arsenal were told to pay a $5 million loan fee. Spurs did not have to pay it, and maybe it's because Tal needed to find that move that the Bayern Munich relented.
Sounds like Spurs have better negotiators than we do then, right?
Yeah. I feel betrayed by the club yet again. Listen, BX, I do too as well. No movement in the window when we know we needed this. To me, I think if we get a little bit of help in the doors in January, that Liverpool, what if we finish behind Liverpool by 2 or 3 points? Ask yourself that question. And Ollie Watkins could have scored 7 or 8 goals in the remaining 12, 14 games. 7 or 8 goals is not beyond him. And now
how does it work with some of our, and I see a few people in the chat are mentioning some of our kids that can play up front. How does it work with registering players? I mean, has that already been done, or are we allowed to just bring someone up for the academy and put them in the starting?
That kid,
sure how that works.
That kid,
someone
Nathan
Jr. Someone else there has mentioned Nathan Butler.
He's been a sub already, Stan. So he's been a sub already. Through our injuries, these players have been on the bench.
They're going to have to make an appearance at some time.
They need to. You know what has been wrong with blooding Miles Lewis-Skelly and Nwaneri? It's been nothing but success stories for them. I'm not saying this kid has to go and score a hat trick when he comes on or brace, but there's got to be something about him if he's making the bench at Arsenal. You know what I mean?
Or is that a case of that they're just taking up a seat because we don't have anyone else?
Could be.
We don't have anyone else. Be. There is no one else, right? So you know, if you take those kids out of the equation that have been on the bench, even if you go back to last season when was it Walters that was on the bench a lot? There was, you know, you see the kids on the bench, but if you take those kids out of it and look at the first team players on the bench, most of them are defenders. Yeah, you'll have Zinchenko and Tierney on the bench, Jorginho, Kivior, Calafiori, a goalkeeper, and then you're looking at where's the
Ben White's coming back? Tommy Asu's coming back. Ben White's coming back. Tommy Asu's coming back,
and that's great for our defence. And you could even say those two in Tommy Asu and Ben White. You know, with the way that our defence has been pretty good this season, you know, they don't just walk back into the team. You know, it's going to take someone to have some bad performances to be dislodged, right?
Yeah, we can play 7 at the back stand.
A new formation.
We could play 2 fullbacks on each side. Wing back. We can play wing backs and fullbacks. And a regular back.
I mean, it's not going to surprise me if at some point during this season we will see someone like either Timber or Tierney playing on the wings.
Yeah,
because it's going to be needs must.
Miles Lewis-Skelly, the best player that has probably come forward to solve our left back issues that we've had. You've just referenced a number of players who can play left back because we've found it difficult to cover that position. BX said, "Serious clubs get the business done." Yeah, go out. You have a need. and we're having probably our worst injury season in years. Liverpool had their worst injury season and only got fourth place on the last day of the season, and we're in second place. We're in second place, not as George Graham says, not second last. We're second top, Stan.
And as I understand it as well, I think the ruling is in Spain that don't all Spanish players have some sort of a buyout clause in the contract,
Yes.
which is one of the reasons that we got Thomas Partey. So why couldn't we have gone to somewhere like Barcelona and made a serious bid for someone like a Ferran Torres who can play anywhere across the front? It doesn't mean that he's going to accept, but at least it looks like we're trying, and not trying in that Ollie Watkins vein, where we come in really late and they've let go one of their strikers. We can say, okay, we want to activate your buyout clause. Are you ready to negotiate terms with us? Why can't we do something like that?
Stan, we come in late and light. You know what I mean? I'm
Rafinha,
going now.
and I'm looking at Barcelona players because we know they need the dough. We know they need the dough.
Yes, I'm going down the chipper, and I want the burger and I want chips, but I've only got enough for chips. Well, that's all you get.
I need to replenish my beer. I'll be right
That's all you get. All right, that's all you get. You only get chips. An ambitious club, as BX said here, an ambitious club would have brought in Gyökeres. And look, I get it. It's very, very difficult to bring players in, but we've referenced players that could come and do a job for Arsenal. The news now, and I'll hit Stan up with this when he comes back as well. The news now is that Arsenal are holding their gunpowder. They're holding their cannonballs until the summer. And then we're going to go big in the summer. The likes of a Semenyo from Bournemouth, the likes of maybe Isak from Newcastle. So that's the latest thing that's hitting the news now, Stan, that Arsenal are going to go big in the summer after two pretty
the summer
inactive
doesn't help
windows.
us with this season, right? Because everybody else will go big in the summer as well. You know, Arne Slot will probably have money to spend to improve his team. The time to strike was now. And this goes all the way back to the beginning of the season, where for whatever reason, Mikel Arteta, his coaches, Edu, who was still part of the structure, they decided to make this to trim the squad and make it small.
I think a proper club.
I'm not saying that Teabag, and those of you that have just joined us, you know, Fabio Vieira. I'm not saying that he's the answer, but we could have done with him. We could be doing with him now. You know what I mean?
There's the enforcers in the house as well. This transfer window is a zero. I got it in the title. That's where the zero is. It's also what happened in Newcastle last night. Listen, an ambitious club would go and buy somebody. When I would say we're still in this title race, just about. We're still there. We're hanging on by a thread. If it goes beyond where we're at right now, the point difference would be too much for me getting into the last dozen games. But an ambitious club would have brought in Gyökeres. Slap the money down. All you can do is, you want a car. All you got to do is put the money down and tempt the dealer to sell it to you. I was more worried we wanted Ollie Watkins to me, Stan. Why should we as fans accept that and not get a world-class striker? Well,
also as well, I hear what Des is saying. He says we will not get Isak. He lives in Newcastle. They won't let him go for any price. But until we make a bid, we can't get officially turned down, if you know what I mean. It's okay.
Everybody's got a price.
It's okay. The management thinking, well, we won't go because they're going to try. Say, we've got the money. Do you know what I mean? We've got the money. We want you. Doesn't look like you're going to get into the Champions League next season. What are you saying? And if they turn us down, we take it on the chin and we move somewhere else. But we will never know. We will never know if we don't make the bid. And even if they want, they're saying, "Oh, we won't let him go for it unless we want 150 million." As I've mentioned, and I've done the sums. We've got 220 million, including the 70. That includes the 75 that we've got from the Champions League. Why can't we just go in with 100 million and see what happens, or 120, 115, and start wetting the whistle? Maybe the player looks around and goes, "I wouldn't mind going to Arsenal," and the player starts to agitate. Player could start to agitate and go, you know what, I'm not going to sign another contract, or wherever it might be, right? I'm not, Because I'm looking at the moment, I'm thinking to myself, is Martinelli going to sign another contract with us? Do we even want him to sign another contract with us? I'd also say that Trossard, because of his age, are we going to be offering him another contract?
Yeah.
We've got Jorginho, who's going to be leaving. I think Thomas Partey could also be on his way out as well. Gabriel Jesus, for what he's worth, there's a lot of talk of him going back to Brazil, either to Botafogo or Flamengo. So that's a lot of replacing that has to be done. So when people say that Arsenal are going to go big, they're going to have to go really big. And I guarantee you, with all of the people that are going to be leaving, we won't replace all of them because I've seen us do it before. We had Balogun, Eddie Nketiah, Alexander Lacazette, and Aubameyang to choose from when Mikel Arteta walked into this club. They've all gone.
And he persevered with Eddie Nketiah too long.
The only forward we brought in was Gabriel Jesus because Havertz wasn't initially brought in for that role. Yes, he's now in that role.
Yeah.
But we're still short in that area. Very short.
Retroholic references Ollie Watkins has not been world class. Maybe he's not world class, but he's a very, very good striker, Premier League class striker. He's going to get you 17, 18, 19 goals a season.
Kai Havertz isn't world class. Gabriel Jesus isn't world class. But they don't all have to be world class, right? But I mean, I don't want to use Kai Havertz as a scapegoat because, as I've mentioned, he does work hard for the team. But then you look at the big games where you really need him, and I'll go back to that first leg of the Newcastle game. Where was he?
Yeah, him and Gabriel Martinelli had gilt-edged chances. Tiger and Gunner without the 2 cups. Let's go to Dubai. Joke. Listen, a lot of Arsenal fans. Listen, if they'd played their heart out against Newcastle and maybe got a goal, and so they lose 2-1, I can stomach that. I can stomach a bit of a fight in the team, but I think a lot of those players went to Newcastle without any heart stand to try and overturn that result, And, David Raya, okay, a goalkeeper is going to get caught out once in a while each season. It happened last season at Tottenham. David Raya made a mistake. It's going to happen the way we play. But that was poor, very, very poor. And we don't have the answer to Newcastle. We don't have the answer to Tyneside. And until we figure that out, we're never going to become a successful team. And I think a lot of that is down to not having prolific forwards, not having prolific strikers. It's all right, lads. We may not win anything, but we got new merch to line their pockets. Not buying a damn thing. Don't buy any merch, I would say. I never really was one that would get excited about merch anyway. I'm a bit old school that way. Your team is not an apparel. Your football team is not an apparel outlet where you want to get kitted out. I'd much prefer results. The truth hurts, and this is the truth. In the Premier League,
let's say we'd gone out, for example, if we'd gone out and bought Anthony, we're in a position where he's obviously not good enough and not at that level. And Manchester United hardly play him and they put him out on loan. But we're in a situation where if that was the case at Arsenal, we'd have to keep playing him. We'd have to keep playing him because there ain't nobody else to bring in. Same if we went out and brought in Darwin Núñez, who looks like a bit part player now at Liverpool, but they have more variety and can cover for that. We haven't. We'd have to be playing him week in, week out and watching him miss all of these gilt-edged chances. And that's what's happening with Kai Havertz. Yes, he might get 15 goals in the season, but in the games where it really matters, those games that are going to get you out of a semi-final and into a final, it's not happening. It's not.
Yeah, in the Premier League, you put up or shut up. City, Chelsea, Man United, all drop bags when they need players. The club are in a sort of limbo, as referenced by Stan's. Speaking about that tweet, AC Milan are cooking right now. Yeah, we won't play them for about a month. I thought we would have something about us a month later after beating Manchester City and going to Newcastle, but obviously the thoughts of sitting on a beach in Dubai was too much for some of our players. Um, and I don't like to criticize. I don't usually criticize our players, but Mikel Arteta coming out of Newcastle last season called the officials a disgracia. Well, I'm calling Arsenal players' performance yesterday a disgracia, in my opinion. Did not turn up, was bullied by a world class player when you should be up for that challenge of Isak and Gordon. You should be up for that. And I don't know what happens then. We sort of went hell for leather to try and get the first goal. It was a bit helter skelter. Um,
Yeah, the way that we played at the beginning of the game is the way that a team would usually play nearer the end of the game, right? If they're chasing.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
started the game like that. And something else I want to pick out as well is Declan Rice, man. For me, he's a 6. He's not an 8. He's not. And you might look at Xhaka and go, well, he was a 6 and he got moved to an 8. The problem there was that he was never a 6, Xhaka. He was an 8.
Yeah.
But we were playing him as a 6 for so long, and it was causing us problems. And when he moved to an 8, he began to shine. Declan Rice is a 6. He's not.
Zubamendi's gonna. If we get Zubamendi, he's a 6, right? So here we are, much like that tweet. We don't know who we are and what we want to do, right? You can talk about it as a club philosophy, and you can talk about it as a managing philosophy. What are we doing with these players, and what positions are we putting them into?
It's almost at times where you look at the team and you say, okay, there's a square hole in the team that needs to be that we need to fill. And rather than going out and buying a square peg that will just slot in nicely, we'll go out and buy a triangle peg or a circular peg, and then we'll get a mallet and just try to bang that peg in until it fucking fits.
Yeah.
Why can't we just go out and get a square peg to fit in there?
I hope we bring Nathan Butler Oyadeji in as well and give him some minutes. Mikel's a fan of the youth. Well, we'll see.
We're going to have to do something in that area. We're going to have to, because as I mentioned earlier, Kai Havertz has already played 70% of the minutes that he played last season, and we're only in February.
If you blow the age of 21,
one injury, or if he doesn't get injured, he's going to be burnt out. And what's going to happen? He's going to have the fan base on his back even more.
Right.
That's not going to help, right? It's not going to help the lad.
Nick said Ollie Watkins would have been cup tied. The only positive I'm taking away is the rise of our youths this season. That's been a really, really high point for this season, where Bukayo Saka is likely going to miss 10, 15 games. We have one area filling in that position, and we're going to miss Bukayo Saka, but it's eased by Ethan Nwaneri taking that place while Saka is away.
You could probably say that Ethan Nwaneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly have been the bright lights of this season.
Yeah.
You know, and they're probably getting those minutes not by choice, but by necessity. And it's almost like, wow, they actually can live up to it. They can actually compete at this level. Whereas, you know, with everybody being fit, we probably would not have noticed it. You know, we probably would have had to deal with seeing more of Zinchenko or in that position. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was needs must, and it was a happy accident. Again, happy accident.
It was talent. It was talent shining through when they get an opportunity. Happy accident. Yeah. Do what Newcastle did against us, 5 at the back. You know, exactly. Get Ferran Torres. Hey guys, how you doing? There's Des catching up here. This transfer window is a 0. I mean, I would have went. I think I went as far as
minus number. It's minus something or other. It's not even a 0. It's minus.
It's a minus 0. I went 7.5 in the summer. Just the striker would have topped it up, but 0 in January, and definitely a negative number. We couldn't get Marmouche question mark, Jimenez question mark. It's shameless how we didn't do shit, but it's okay, BX, because we're gonna go big in the summer, and if it is Isaac, it's a transfer saga that's going to drag on for weeks. So
How do you know we're going to go big in the
we have to
summer,
wait
though?
till August then.
How do you know that we're going to go big in the summer? That's the thing. How do you even know that? Before the January window opened, we were hearing that we were going to go in for a striker. Even people like the Oracle, David Ornstein, even he was saying like Arsenal are definitely going to do something in this window. Obviously, it might not be in Isak, but they're going to do something. No, no. Even that other bell end, what's his name? What's the other one? Fabrizio Romano. Even I don't have him on my timeline, right? I'm tired of hearing from him. I just don't have him. But from hearing from other people talking about him, apparently he was saying that we were going to do something. We didn't do diddly squat.
Somebody's better than nobody. And somebody is probably better than Gabriel Jesus. Guys, promise you to join more often. Yeah, we'd love to have you around here, Des, as well. I get you, Stan. I will say this. They won't let him go for less than 200 million. I mean, the player can agitate as well. The player wants to play Champions League football. If Newcastle do not make the Champions League, that's 1 point already.
And plus, they have FFP issues as well, right? They need to do some kind of a balancing. So, they might not be in a position to demand the money that they want. You know what I mean?
Boise is quality, but he doesn't get enough goals, and is a sick note. Well, exactly. If you don't get enough goals, you're a striker.
Sounds like he's describing Darren Anderton. You know what I'm saying? Quality player, not available to you. That doesn't do. That does. It's not going to help, right? If you can't rely on that player, what's the point?
Yeah. Give me a new manager, a new sponsor, ensuring the damn striker. Also, a left center mid won't hurt either. 15 league goals versus 15 all competitions. I want the 15 league goals type of player. If we're talking about Kai Havertz, Rice is 6. We agree on that one, Des. Arteta needs to stop chopping and changing players' roles.
I think Janino's on his way out. He was almost on his way out last season. I think he's getting to that stage where when players want to go back to their home country, like Xhaka. Xhaka gave us that one more. People say, why did we get rid of Xhaka? He wanted to leave, right? We managed to keep him for another season. He was happy to walk away a season before, and I think this is a similar situation of Jorginho, where this is his last season. I don't know if he's gonna. And even if he does stay around, again, a bit part player, right? He's a bit part player, and he's not someone that you're going to count on to start, because he does have some limitations. As much as he gives you everything that he can, right? He's got to that place now in his career where he has to be managed with kid gloves.
Stephen said, of course we had problems against them, Newcastle. We played a half press, leaving our back line exposed because they played so high up. Yeah, I don't know why we pushed our fullbacks too far forward. George Graham in 1989 up at Anfield told the players exactly how it would go. Keep it tight at the back, guys. We'll go in at halftime 0-0. The crowd will get a little bit nervous. We might nick a goal early in the second half, and then it's game on. You know what I mean? Arsenal had to win by 2 clear goals at Anfield, and we had a 2-goal deficit at Newcastle. But we played it a little bit differently, too open, and with not the right tactics, in my opinion, obviously. It backfired on us.
I'll be right back. I think I've got a delivery at the door, so just give me a moment.
All right. Nick said, by the time we have got the striker to midfield, we'll have all left on a free. Then we'll need a DM again. We'll fix that. Then Saliba will leave for real. Sounds Wenger era familiar. I think in fairness, though, Nick, like every team always has needs, and they have an age profile where players go beyond 30 years old and they're going to be moved on. Players get sold. I think this happens at every club where you have needs, and every year needs a replacement or an upgrade. So no team actually stays still. I get what you're saying. We're continually having to do something with this team. Um, Conflicted on Mikel Arteta because until he actually understands that we need a striker. Strikers are worth their weight in gold in this league, and until we get a striker of note in the door, we're never going to be able to score enough goals that will insulate us from, let's say, a bad refereeing decision, or let's say a bad goal that's conceded against us, or a player like Alexander Isak, who's just on form and scoring. He can score a goal or two in a game. We don't have our own striker who can do the same thing and hit back in the same regard. So Isak scores 2 goals against us. We don't yet have a striker that we can comfortably and confidently say he's going to score 2 goals. And so it's a 2-2 game going into the last 20 minutes. And then you look to your bench. So until Mikel Arteta figures out that we need actual world class or, very efficient players up front and wingers. And look, it's been said about Bukayo Saka. We maybe underappreciated everything that he has done for us over the years. He has been carrying the load on that right hand side alongside Odegaard. And Odegaard, it's probably no coincidence that Martin Odegaard is struggling now because he doesn't have Ben White and he doesn't have Bukayo Saka on that right hand side. And Odegaard is looking a little bit lost right now. He's just had a newborn baby. It does actually look like he's not getting a lot of sleep, and I think he said something to that effect. And he's starting to look like he's lost a bit of weight, like you can see it in his face as well. So this season has taken a toll on Odegaard. As Stan has referenced, we've taken away the likes of Emile Smith Rowe and even Fabio Vieira, the creative catalysts who could have gone into the engine room of midfield and helped Martin Odegaard. I think it's unfair to ask um, Martin Odegaard to take the majority of the minutes 3 seasons running to sustain an injury at international level. And his game has been affected by all of these things. Uh, and the ex gunner said Odegaard is looking pony these days. Can't even put his foot through the ball cleanly. He needs to hit the weights. Um, Ray, you're right about Odegaard, mate. We're asking these players to go again, and they don't have the squad. They don't have the squad buffering around them. Like if Zabuzlai at Liverpool, for instance, is having a tough time in midfield, you got a Curtis Jones or a Harvey Elliott that can come in and take the heat off of him. We're asking Odegaard to do a hell of a lot these seasons. This season especially. I went on a little bit of a monologue about Odegaard there, Stan. We're asking a lot of Martin Odegaard, and his performances have deteriorated as a result of that. Without Bukayo Saka, without Ben White, that automisms or autonomisms are not there on the right hand side.
I think my missus made a good point. She pops in sometimes when I'm watching the game. She sat and watched the game with me. I don't know if it was the City game or the game that we played before that. And she said to me, "What's up with Martin Odegaard? He looks really gaunt, like physically. I know that his wife has had a baby, and obviously a young baby, crying at night can keep you up. But he does look a bit gaunt, and he just seems to be really off the boil." But we're in that situation now that we used to be in with Hector Bellerin. And I've said this a few times on this broadcast, the problem that we had with Hector Bellerin was he would find himself in the game having a really bad time. And I'm sure that he would convince himself, in his mind that I'm having a bit of a stinker, but I'll do better in the next game. He will convince himself he's going to do better in the next game. You know why? because he knows he's going to get picked for the next game because there was no one else at right back at that time challenging him who could take his place. And we don't have that. You would have thought that perhaps the young kid Waneri could have come in for him, but now we need him in another position. So Martin Odegaard is going to continue, if he's fit, to play, even if he's out of form, because there is no one else. We shouldn't be in that situation. And another point as well is, am I right in saying that Mikel Arteta is the second highest paid manager in football at the moment?
He's up there.
I think he's the second highest paid manager. What is that based on? Personally, when I would have renewed his contract, given him a little bit less, and say, you know what,
his agent,
we're going to pay you this amount, and at the end of the season, if we win something and you show us what you're worth, we can always go back and review that and reward you based on what you achieved this season. But that's not going to happen. And I've always believed that when you talk about the project or the process, in the eyes of the ownership, Mikel Arteta is the project, not the squad.
Yeah.
It's him. He is their project. I don't think that if we end up at the end of this season with nothing, he's still going to be the manager next season. There's no jeopardy. It's too comfortable.
Yeah, and you know what, Stan? I was thinking about this driving home, knowing that we're out of a cup competition, of which we really needed to go and win a cup competition this season of all. Kicked out of the FA Cup again under outrageous circumstances. We got ourselves into a quarterfinal against Crystal Palace, beat them, close enough, but we beat them. A semi-final with 2 games against Newcastle. Newcastle, Tottenham, or Liverpool. Any one of those 3 would have been difficult to overcome. But, Mikel Arteta's he's got too many feels about his players. You know what I mean? He's too nice to them. I think he's too forgiving to them as well. Red John said, I'm one of the few fans who never underappreciated Saka. I always credit Saka.
Sorry, I was wrong. Mikel Arteta I'm just looking it up. Mikel Arteta is the third highest paid manager, the third highest, on $19.4 million, which equates to around about £15 million. So he's the third.
You know what
highest.
that is?
He's behind Pep Guardiola, and I think the other one is Simeone. What is that based on?
That is a business. That is a business decision. You're paid very well. You're going to get paid very well if the coffers are looking good in your business, right? You will get renewed contracts. Keep everything moving along just as it is, Mikel. You're doing great. Keep the money pouring in. Let's keep qualifying for Champions League football, and we'll be 5 years in European football. We're projected to earn this amount of money from the Champions League and be available for a Super League as well. So there you go. And that's what in effect the UEFA Champions League is right now. It's in effect a Super League.
I think it maybe in 2024 he was the second highest, but now as we stand in the second month of 2025, he's the third highest paid manager in world football.
Yeah,
he's won an FA Cup with someone else's team. Right, he won an FA Cup, but it wasn't his team. He's had a lot of money to spend to build this team in his shape, and we seem to be floundering.
Yeah, yeah, and look, I think he's bringing in the money. So Red John was talking about Bukayo Saka. Always thought the goals would dry up when Saka got injured, which it did because neither Rice nor Martinelli are special corner kick takers. Yeah, so we are just struggling in certain areas of the field. We're struggling. Odegaard, especially. The press that we were able to put on City on Sunday, we got pressed yesterday by Newcastle and by that atmosphere. And this reminded me a little bit of the Champions League against Bayern Munich, where we made mistakes in the first leg of the European competition in that quarterfinal against Bayern Munich, especially at the back. We were we were non-decisive. We were very indecisive in the back four, Stan. And this doesn't augur well for the Champions League if we play in an environment like Newcastle. We know Newcastle's noisy and raucous, and it's a really big stadium, and you need to have a big personality to be able to play there. And we didn't live up to that atmosphere.
I've come to the conclusion that we're what I call a moments team. The match against City was a moment, a very good one.
Yeah.
And there may be more moments to come during this season, but the consistency level is not there.
I think I mentioned that.
There'll be more moments and more matches where we will have a really good game, but the consistency is lacking. We're moments FC.
Yeah, when you joined me on Sunday, we were talking about that. We can beat Crystal Palace 5-1 in the league, but then we only beat Ipswich 1-0 the next game, 3 days later. Here we beat Man City 5-1 for, a grudge match, right? A reserve, a revenge game from earlier in the season. And then we turn around in Newcastle, and we're not up to the task.
And that's to win a place in a final. The Newcastle game is to win a place in the final for a trophy.
Yeah.
And in 2 legs, we couldn't score a goal.
You go home with a 4-0 aggregate against. We were winning everything when Odegaard was injured and Saka was around. Oh, okay. So, yeah, you're saying maybe the loss of Saka is bigger than the loss of Odegaard. God, I hope Odegaard hasn't gone vegan. My girlfriend is vegan, and she's always low on some kind of vitamin or iron levels.
We've seen that with Hector, haven't we? We saw that with Hector.
No, he hasn't. Isn't Simeone and Pep Guardiola are paid more? No way. Arteta is the second highest. The third highest now, though, right?
Yeah.
Or did you say second?
I looked it up.
Yeah, Stan is saying second as well. So, I mean, it's pretty good sources there. He's the second highest paid manager, but his game management skills amount to the worst in the league. Listen, I think Stephen, he has managed a group of players that are where were we 5 or 6 years ago? Mid-table at best. He has managed a lot of talent in the team to get us to a certain point. Now it remains to be seen if he's going to be the guy who gets us to the promised land. That remains to be seen,
Question for you and everybody that's joined us. Do you think that we will finish second in the league this season? Because I don't.
I think we will.
We're waiting for Liverpool to drop points, and that's possible, but we will also be dropping points.
I think we're definitely the second best team in the league, if not, we'll see at the end of the season. You know what I mean?
And the reason I say that is because we're so short. We're so short as a team. And as I keep mentioning, Havertz, I don't see him being able to see out the whole season. He plays 90 minutes a game. There's no one to give him any respite.
I'm looking at the fixtures, right? And we play Leicester away from home in the middle of February, a week from now, 10 days after we come back from Dubai. We play Leicester away from home. We should rinse them, right? We play West Ham at home. It should be another 3 points. And then we have a tough one in Nottingham Forest. So, I think we're going to be there or thereabouts at the end of the day. And who knows what Nottingham Forest are going to be like at the end of this month. I think Nottingham Forest will settle back down into 4th or 5th place. They're in 3rd place right now. But I think we definitely and the other thing, Stan, we're talking about injuries now. I think some of these injuries will clear up. You're right. We might see Ben White as a right winger. We might see him in midfield. We might see Miles Lewis-Skelly in midfield. We might see who else? Zinchenko in midfield, Stan.
Not allowed. Zinchenko's not allowed in midfield. We've already discussed that. For whatever
That was
reason,
my
he's not
that
allowed
was
to
my
play
one
midfield.
my one hot take is Zinchenko's going to play in midfield. It could be by virtue of injury and not by virtue of his skills. Or we've beaten City only twice in the league in like 9 years, and both times without Saka. Funny how that works. Yeah, the whole comparing salaries thing is nonsensical. These managers are in different countries with different tax rates. Yeah, but they're still being valued by cold hard cash. That's that's the only way you can equate them. Is the required club that we're talking is the requisite club getting value for money? Bring me Mancini at this point, says BX. Getting a lot of stuff from the chat. This is good. Every home game, Arsenal make £4 million as a comparison. Newcastle make 1 million every home game. So,
and again, you're looking at players that we've been linked with, and in the summer we're going for this player. In the summer we're going to go for that player. In the summer, other teams will have their money in as well, and they'll also be going for those players as well. We've got the money in the bank now. Why can't we? If we can't get the player in January, why can't we do the deal now for the summer? So nobody else can get those players. Why do we have to wait to the summer to start our negotiations when everybody else will be able to make negotiations because they'll have money as well?
So the players that we're targeting, Stan, some of them, it could be a Semenyo at Bournemouth. He's been linked to Arsenal, right? But Bournemouth don't know yet where they're going to be, where they're going to finish in the league. They're aiming for top four. So I think there's some uncertainty there that you can't talk to. We can't make plans. The selling club can't make plans. The player can't make plans until they know how they finish their season.
But if we go in and offer the money, it might be too much to be able to refuse. I've seen other teams do it. Other teams get deals done in the middle of the season with the player coming in the next window. We've got the resources to do that. We have. What good is the money doing in the bank? Is it because we want the interest? What good is it? Burning a hole in our pocket.
Yeah, I don't think that
it's not like we don't have the money. We have the resources, but as I mentioned earlier, we don't seem to have the will.
The kind of players we're looking for, though, are close to top tier players. They're close to being creme de la creme.
And maybe those players that we're looking at will continue to have continue to have a good season for the rest of the season, and their value will keep creeping up. Do the deal now. You can make the deal now for the summer. We've got the resources, but we don't have the will.
Yeah, we shouldn't be losing the mentality battle against Newcastle, but they just may be the new City, and they seem to have the Indian sign over us. They seem to have a hoodoo over us. If Arsenal was located in any other city but London, Arteta would be paid a couple of million less. This is true. London is a little bit more expensive, right? This may be one of the best ones here. The owners are the biggest problem in our club. So, where's the ambition from the Cronkies? We're going to ask that question again after 3 years, I think, after the European breakaway and the big campaign from the fans. Third, Man City are going to storm it with their new signings. So, third are going to get in there. Man City are going to come third, I think. We will get second, Stan, I have no doubt, but we won't come close to even challenging Liverpool for that title. Listen, I think, Red John, I think 6 points could go quickly. There's not been much evidence, but I think 6 points can evaporate pretty quickly as well. We got to be there if that happens.
Nick Wilson saying, haven't we agreed to buy a midfielder in the summer already? And that could be Martin Zubamendi. It's not concrete, is it? I've not heard it's concrete. Yeah. It's done and dusted, and come the summer, he'll be here on the first day. There's been rumours, and again, wasn't there that other player that we were looking at that I don't know too much about? Was it Naipan? They were
Yeah,
talking about again.
yeah.
It's not concrete though, is it? That these
But
deals have been done.
this is kind of like, okay, it might be the next Wonder Kid, but it's a kid. You know what I mean? As well, in my opinion. Newcastle. We play Newcastle at home second last weekend of the season, so
Oh dear.
I'm looking forward to giving it back to Newcastle. Second last game of the season. BX, you're right there in front of me, Jose. Um, we won't finish second playing this style. The results are worse than last year, and it's only going to get harder as teams see how predictable we are. Yeah, I mean,
And also, we don't have the variety to change things around. We don't have any surprises. You know, we have what we have. You know,
um, yeah, we have what we have. Des says, Stan, the team are having 10 days in the sun. When they come back, we will go on a winning streak till the end of the season. Hey, we did it last season. Both of you are smiling about this. It could happen. You know, I'm still in this thing. That's what it's about, Stan. You know, when you're supporting the team, you know, it's easy. You and I have been generally positive about
I think
Arsenal.
we've been very measured.
It's
You know,
easy.
neither of us are either an Arteta in or Arteta out. We don't have these definites. And as I've always said, I use a percentage scale. And at the moment, my percentage scale, I'm at 70% out, 30% in. We stick with them. That's where I am, 70-30 in my percentage rating. It's gone down a lot.
Yeah, listen, Mikal. That's when you need to start pushing it back the other way now, Mikal. You know what I mean? And coming back and going on a run like we did. We did 16-1-1 last season to bring it all the way to the final day of the season, and we did a live stream together on the final day of the season. We basically knew it was a 90% chance the City were gonna beat West Ham and see it out, but you got to go again, redouble
And
the
on top of
efforts.
this as well, on top of all of these problems that we've been discussing, we also have the problem of the officials are against us. That's not a conspiracy theory. You've seen some of the dodgy decisions
Yeah,
that we've had. And I put a tweet out saying that, all of those that are sort of like pumping their fist in the air that we got one over on the PGMOL by having Lewis Miles Skelly's card rescinded, that for me is just going to fuel them to go. They're very petty. They're not going to hold their hands up, say we got it wrong and move on. Now they're going to be looking at us with even more scrutiny. That's what I feel. And you only have to look now that, all of a sudden now, the officials are now talking about goal celebrations and punishing players for goal celebrations. When has that ever been a thing? When has that ever been a thing until now, just recently with Lewis, with MLS, sitting down and doing his celebration. Now it's a problem. They're on us. So we've got that to contend with as well as everything else.
Does anyone know what game?
If you think the decisions are going to get easier as the rest of the season plays out, no.
Yeah.
We're going to see more contentious decisions coming our way. We've got to deal with that as well.
Des says, Ray, I want nothing more than if we go on a winning run till the end of the season. That's what Des says. Activate release clauses.
You only have to look at the Man City game. For me, that was a magnificent win. And we won that game in spite of bad officiating. Because, I'll pick one out. When Trossard got fouled and went down on the ground, the player kicked at Trossard and there's nothing. It seems fine. There's no retribution. Had it been the other way around, you guaranteed the game would have been stopped and there would have been some sort of a punishment or heavy scrutiny.
How do we get out of this cycle, Stan? How do we get out of this cycle? Because, 3 years ago, Arsenal fans didn't want to break away to a Super League, but here we are 3 years later. And it almost seems like, and people have said this as well, Stan, almost seems like everybody liked Arsenal when they were getting shellacked by all the teams. We were losing 5-0, 6-0 at Chelsea. Remember that game where the They even booked the wrong player, mistaken identity. But it was like
Convenient.
good old Arsenal. They tried, but they're really bad. They lost 5-1. Now it seems like we're threatening people because we're actually good, you know, and we can win games, and we can actually, if these games were not being tilted away from us and toward Liverpool or City, we'd actually be up there, maybe at the top of the league now. If all of those, you can count on one. I can probably count on one hand all of the red cards and the incidents that have happened in 5 or 6 games against us. That has had a real effect on the Premier League table right now. And rival fans will call it, we're tears or whatever, right? I mean, we're crying about this, but it's real. These things are outrageous decisions that you're never going to see given against another team ever again. I thought at Wolves with 2 yellow cards for Marinelli would be the worst that I've ever seen. You know what I mean? 2 yellow cards for a red in within 3 seconds of each other without the player even. So a yellow card is supposed to be a caution. I take a yellow card as, hold on, mate. I'm giving you a yellow card because you do that again and you're off. But you should have the opportunity to tell the player you've transgressed, you've done something wrong. Don't do it again. Go on, play on. But don't do that again. Well, Martinelli didn't have that chance a few seasons ago at Wolverhampton Wanderers, and so we've had at least 5 incidents. The one at Brighton, 2 of them at Brighton. The Rice one and the Jav Pedro one. Right, two things.
Apparently now, clash of heads is not allowed.
Yeah, William Saliba, a red card on the halfway line.
Yeah.
Where there's no way, and then Miles Lewis Skelly, a red card even further back, further away from goal. Arsenal must be some very dangerous team on the counter attack, or you know what I mean. What else happened? There was another red card. Trossard kicking the ball away. There you go. That's 5, right there.
Declan Rice kicking the ball away.
Yeah. How do we overcome this? Is it people don't like Arsenal? Is it people don't like Mikel Arteta? Is it Arsenal are now good and they're fearful that we might win something?
Just by the very fact that they're looking at bringing in punishment for goal celebrations. I mean, what more evidence do you need? We can't celebrate goals anymore. Since when?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's so ambiguous, right? So, one referee is going to deem a certain celebration a punishment, another referee isn't. It's going to be so ambiguous, right?
Yeah. They're not really going to do this, are they? They're just talking about it.
Who knows?
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know if I said this to you live or in the green room before we started. Erling Haaland can take a ball out of the back of the net and whack it off the back of someone's head, and that's okay.
Fine.
Nobody says
fine.
Great game at the Etihad. Wonderful performance from City to come back against 10 men. They had 11. Nothing about plucky Arsenal almost winning at the Etihad. But then, like months later in the return, and it's a bit of banter. It's a rivalry, right? I could never get Liverpool City. They're just respected and loved each other too much in that rivalry. Klopp and Pep. Well, here we have Mikel Arteta and Man City and Pep, and there's a rivalry brewing there between Haaland and Gabriel, especially. And Gabriel's giving it back to him after we scored the first goal, but that's frowned upon by media personalities.
Yeah, that's frowned upon, but the player throwing a ball at his head is
that's okay.
It's not even really talked about.
Crazy.
It's got a conspiracy theory. Arsenal fans just got conspiracy theory, and we're all wearing aluminium foil hats, apparently.
Yeah. and rival fans are weighing in on this. I do think Mikel Arteta needs to be more careful in his press conferences. He talks about the ball being the issue. I don't know why he does that. He needs to be he needs to steer clear of these stupid questions from basically these reporters are going on TikTok and getting their
And if you
questions.
are going to be using a different ball for a match, you train with that ball during the week.
Yeah.
That's usually what
Wait,
happens.
don't blame the ball for your performance. You know what I mean? These managers can't do that. Um, that bid for Watkins was fake. Arsenal knew Watkins' bid would get rejected. Reason
I
one,
agree.
Villa are in the UEFA Champions League.
I
And
agree. The
reason two,
timing of it.
John Duran just left. They had no other striker. Arsenal did not bid again, too. Yeah, it was one of those very limp and light approaches. Hopefully, hopefully we can make a new merch and make it harder to get tickets in a higher tier ballot system. Probably the most expensive tickets as well in the Premier League.
I don't know.
You
I
know,
mean, have you seen what's happened with Chelsea?
no,
The news about Chelsea. Apparently, what's happening there is the FA or the Premier League or whoever it is, Todd Bowley. It's been found out that he has a separate website, and for any tickets that are unsold, they're being sold on this website for thousands of pounds. And it's come up, and they've written to
shouldn't he
Chelsea
be in?
asking for an explanation.
Shouldn't he be in trouble for that?
Well, they've written to him and want an explanation. So, I guarantee you though that will all, if there's going to be a punishment meted out for that or whatever, it will all be done before we ever see Man City in court for their 115, which has gone up to 100 and was it 30 now?
Yeah,
Charges against them. But the Chelsea thing will probably be all sorted out before that ever, before that
well,
ever
that
gets a result.
115. I thought
Well,
that
no.
115 charges we'd be getting like weekly snippets in the news about what happened in court. I thought that 115 would be, and at the court today, you get
Exactly.
daily updates, but
No.
crickets.
We're
It's
getting
gone
more
quiet.
updates about P. Diddy than we are with Man City.
Oh my God, Arteta's one of those managers who can spank City 5-0, then fail to score a single goal against Newcastle. But
For
Arteta's
me,
not
that's the
on the
players as
field.
well. The players have to take
Yeah,
responsibility for that, not just the manager.
I
Players
don't
have to be
understand.
accountable.
Yes, listen, he picks the players, and it's his fault if they're not efficient. But the players are the ones who are responsible once they cross that white line. He can't. He doesn't have like a joystick. He's not moving them around on the field. You know what I mean? Uh, so, Red John, listen, because it's the fault of the team, it's the fault of the players, it's the fault of the form of the players. Now, if you want to get rid of Havertz and bring in Waneri or some young player, let's try that. I'm open to trying some new things, but the team is too inconsistent. And almost like he focuses on big games, and just dismisses small games as one. The new, I don't think that Carabao Cup second leg of a semi-final is a small game. I don't know if you're referencing Newcastle as a small game, but we had a chance to get to a final. You know, um, yeah, no way to bid it for him was all smoke with the
I have to believe
Oliveras.
that if you've got Tottenham speaking to Matthias Tell about a loan deal, okay, with no obligation to buy, and you've got Arsenal talking to him, surely the player is going to look at the form of the team, and is going to make a choice. But if you're not in that conversation, then there's no choice to be made, is there? If Mikel Arteta doesn't believe that buying Matthias Tell is the way to go, surely he can see how short we are, and we're only left with one striker. Surely he's at least good enough to come in on a loan, and can take up a bit of the slack so that our one remaining striker isn't run into the ground. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm just going to throw this out at you. And Edu used to be the guy, right? Now it's Jason Ato. And maybe Edu and Arteta worked well together, albeit, in what we got over the last few seasons. Do you think it's possible that Ato and Arteta are not aligned and not working together
I
in
have
these
no
last?
idea. I don't know anything about this,
Yeah,
Jason
me
Ato.
neither.
But I think
Yeah,
that someone like Edu, he had that back pocket of being able to get into Brazil and have conversations with players. And there were a couple of players from Brazil that we could have looked at. There was Galeno, also as well. There's a forward at Botafogo called Igor Jesus. Now maybe we've lost that. We've lost that channel into that area now. And I
yeah,
also think that as well. I know that Edu left for a more high-profile job in what he's got, in the responsibilities that he now has with where he's gone. But I do think that there was a disagreement over the Marino transfer. I think that Edu wasn't as keen on that transfer, that he didn't feel that he met the
yeah,
profile of the kind of player that we should be looking for. And I think that it was Mikel Arteta that really pushed ahead for that
yeah.
transfer. And maybe that left a bit of a bad taste in Edu's mouth. But then again,
Maybe.
it wasn't so long ago that I saw a lot of people online that didn't want Edu to be our sporting director. And now they've got that wish. And
Yeah.
look at where we are now.
And it could be that, Arteta's got the ear of Josh Kroenke. You never know what goes on behind closed doors within an organization. Red John said we can tap up Salah in June since Liverpool won't give him the contract. We'll see what happens. You know, I actually think Liverpool should let those players go because they're going to get weighed down by heavy contracts. They're not going to be able to do much. But
And
we'll
if I
see what happens.
and if now that Edu's not gone, if we're looking at a player and you want to make a phone call to that player to have a chat with them, is a player going to sort of take more influence from Jason Ato or the manager? Why can't the manager get on the phone and say, I'll make that call.
Yeah.
I'll make that call and butter him up. Is that not going on? Are we leaving it to Jason Ato, who I don't really know that
I
much
think
about him?
I think
I know that he's
Arteta.
an assistant to Edu.
I think the Arteta's got to be involved in those conversations. I think
You'd
he
hope
is.
so.
Yeah. The only way to get refs on our side is to invite English refs to ref the MLS. Show the Americans some love. Either that or get them a private one-on-one with Lyndon Lizardi.
Name from the past.
He's saucy. As I've stated before, the Martinelli double yellow happened to Gerrard when he come on as a sub and lasted less than 2 minutes. I'd have to search for that. I thought it was just Martinelli. We honestly wasted money on Sterling. Agreed. That's
We're not
15
paying his full
million.
wages. I know that we're not paying 100% of the wages. I know that
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's a 50-50 thing or a 60-40 thing, but whatever the amount is, it's too much.
I think we're paying 100. I think it
Too
was
much.
like 2/3 that Chelsea were playing and paying. So it's 100,000, right? I think BX is right here. 100,000 of the 300, I believe. But yes, pointless signing. But listen, 100,000 52 times, right? That's a decent amount of change right there. So what's that? 52,
Whatever it is, it's too much.
5,200. It's 5 million, maybe. Whatever it is, it's too much. We are. That thing, Stan, I was thinking about that today. I know we were going to talk. That Sterling thing was like a friend getting another friend out of a jam, right? Mikel Arteta and Sterling worked together before, and Sterling was getting thrown out of Chelsea. They told him, go find the club. We don't want you.
I just want to speak to Red John. He says that I'm wrong regarding the bad blood between Arteta and Edu. Yeah, he did leave for a higher position, but as I understand it, they weren't on the same page when it came to the Marino transfer, and it was Mikel Arteta that really pushed ahead for that transfer. As I understand it, he was the main person at the club that was pushing for that, and him and Edu were not on the same page. I'm not saying that's the reason why he left, but it doesn't help. You know,
Yeah.
they weren't working in tandem when it came to that transfer, as I understand it. And I'm not, because I'm not in the know. This is what I've heard again from people like David Ornstein.
IDK Stan.
I'm not an RDK, right? It's people like Ornstein who are supposed to be in the know that have reported this. That Mikel Arteta was the main driving force.
Man said he found the loophole and to keep adding to their charge number. The case keeps dragging on, and the paperwork keeps coming into the prosecutor. Yeah, listen, whatever's going on at Arsenal, it doesn't look good in the last two windows, and you know, if you're kind of in disarray, you're going to say, "Well, we'll wait till the next window." Yeah, the next one will be the best one you've ever seen because we fucked up this last one. Actually, Arteta's moving players around from the sideline. He's continually yelling instructions out to the players.
We could talk about this window as well, but I wasn't really that thrilled about the last one, to be fair.
Yeah, I know. I referenced the last two, I think. You know, I agree with you. I was okay with last window, if we'd have gotten a striker, and if all of them had been depth reasons. You know what I mean? So Calafiori was for depth. Mourinho was for depth because Partey's out playing him right now. And finally, if we'd have gotten a striker that could score you 10 to 15 goals in the Premier League, I would have been okay with that deputizing behind Jesus and Havertz, you know? So this, I think that Arteta is very, very, very organizationally challenged. He wants his players on the pitch in the right places at all times. You have seen Arsenal not being beaten by a big club in many, many years. One of the top 6 clubs, let's say. But we do have we do have issues with Newcastle. We do have issues with Aston Villa. We do have issues with Bournemouth in recent years. But not the traditional ones, Man United, Chelsea, City, Liverpool. We've been very strong against them. Edu is the reason why Nottingham are third. Not, yeah. All right. No, check your inbox for the next time, Alonso. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, Lonnie.
Get me Isak and let Newcastle have the donkey we have up front. That's gonna be a saga in the summer if that's the way it goes down. But I mean, here's the question, and we're not going to be able to answer this until August, then. But will you feel better if we get Isak in the summer? Where we are now, you know what I mean? We're looking at it from one side, which is just after the January window. Let's say in August, Alexander Isak is a gooner.
Why do we have to wait till the summer? Why can't we start doing a deal now so that it's done and dusted for the summer?
I'm sure
going in with the summer, you know.
I'm sure there'll be some back channeling going on, some talks with the agent, but Newcastle not going to make it easy on us, right?
Sometimes a player can help to make that move as well. Again, you know, the player has to have the will to want to make that move.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I think he's got a clause, some sort of a clause about the Champions League, where even though he may have a contract to, further than the summer, I think there is some sort of clause that if they don't make the Champions League, that he's allowed to then be granted a move or have talks. But it doesn't mean that we can't start laying the groundwork now.
We will wait. We will hope that Newcastle get preoccupied by this cup final, that they get preoccupied and have difficulty in the Premier League as well. I give the summer a 3 out of 10 and January 0 out of 10, averaged out. That's 1.5 out of 10. Nowhere near good enough. Timber Zinchenko, Tommy Tierney, Kivior, Lewis Skelly. These are, I think, our fullbacks. Ben White. You can add Ben White in there as well. Who else we got? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, why didn't we sign him before Newcastle?
Because we dragged our feet. It's
We
quite
should have done
simple.
that. We should have done
It's
that.
quite simple.
If we'd have been ambitious,
Newcastle had more of a will to sign the player than we
yeah,
did. It's that
yeah,
simple.
yeah. Where's Gary and Tony? New Jersey and Oklahoma. Alonso. Stan, you have to go from 70% Arteta out to 100% if we don't sign a striker for the next season. surely, surely we're buying a striker in the summer. Like it'll be three
I'd
years
agree.
in the fans. Huh?
I'd agree. I mean, it's glaring what needs to be done. It's glaring.
Yes.
But we'll probably go out and buy another left back and a goalkeeper.
It's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right. What else we got to talk about? I know there was some other things, right?
Was
So
there?
yeah, well, we go on this Dubai trip, right? And come back. And we have Leicester and West Ham. I think we can go. Do you think we can go on a run, Stan? I mean, this season has been very, very much stop start this season.
I mean, I don't have a
You know?
crystal ball, right?
Yeah.
I would have thought that we could have got something out of the two legs against Newcastle. At least have made it difficult for them. We didn't even do that.
Yeah.
It seems, if you look back, for me, it was quite easy for Newcastle to get into the final. They weren't tested by us at all.
We didn't make it. We didn't make it difficult for them at all. At all.
You know, we should have been able to have done a lot more at home. You know, we should have been able to have done something at home to make it more difficult for the second leg, and we weren't able to do that. Chances went begging.
Poor finishing. Yeah. Very poor finishing altogether. Yeah, what are we thinking about the play of Raya? David Raya.
David Raya as a goalkeeper. I don't have a problem with David Raya as a goalkeeper. You know, he's gonna have the odd game, and I think, you know, Saliba had a poor game against Newcastle, but overall he's a very good defender. But very good players, world-class players, will still have off days. you know what I mean?
Yeah. Saliba as well. Saliba's thinker and Raya's thinker. So Saliba is now being bullied by Isak twice, and I felt like Haaland switched off of Gabriel and onto Saliba on Sunday as well. He got the goal from Saliba marking him. So has Saliba lost a little something?
Here's another worry for me as well. I mean, for me, I'm very happy with Gabriel and Saliba as our centre-back pairing. You know, and there's other players in the teams that, you know, I'm happy with as well. My worry is that how long is it before these players are going to go, well, it's not happening here. It's just not happening here. Maybe I need to be going elsewhere for more of a challenge. You know, when contracts come around to be renewed, are players going to be, you know, if we come away with nothing yet again, are they going to be as eager to continue to commit? You know, it's not like Saliba and Gabriel grew up in the area and are Arsenal through and through. Yeah, they want to do well for the club, but at the end of the day, it is their job, and they are playing football to win things. So my worry is that are we going to be, you know, are we able to get some of these players who are gems in the squad to continue to commit?
Yeah. That the other thing as well, I was thinking about this. As a player, right? You're looking. Let's say you're going on preseason, right? And you basically have your players at the club, and you're in that dressing room preseason. You're playing 3 or 4 games to get ready for the start of a new Premier League season. So, and you look around the dressing room, Stan, and you're like, we've got the players here that can win a Premier League title. We've got enough here that can win something. I believe in what we can do this season. So it gives you a boost, right? But the backside of that is we didn't bring anyone in January. What are we doing here? What's going on upstairs? You're in that dressing room, and those players saying, "What's going on upstairs?" They didn't
Exactly.
bring they didn't bring anyone in. We need help. We're on
We,
our feet here.
we're here as fans being very disappointed about the inactivity in the transfer window. The manager has shown disappointment about our inactivity in the transfer window. So I'm sure some of the players are. I'm sure. I remember Declan Rice being interviewed at the end of one of the games and him saying that, yeah, I'm sure we're going to bring someone in during this window, and we haven't.
Yeah.
How does that make him feel?
I
Players
wonder.
that are having to play every single game and are breathing out of their arse already are probably hoping. I really hope they bring someone in to cover so that I can get back to my best. Maybe someone like an Odegaard, right? Someone like a Havertz, and they're not seeing it happen, and then they're probably thinking like, bloody, I've got to continue all season.
I think that I think some of those players would have the seniority, like a Declan Rice, like a Martin Odegaard, or even a Gabriel, to knock on the door of the manager and say, "What's going on?" Do you think there would be that situation where they go like, "Hey, boss, what's going on? We didn't bring anyone in, boss. What's going on?"
Well, as I say, the manager has shown disappointment at it as well. So the players are looking towards the manager and they're saying, "I'm disappointed." The manager's disappointed. What in the hell is going on here? What's going on here? Where's the ambition? I've been in a team now that's fought for second place for the last 2 seasons, and now they're seeing Manchester City fall away, and all of a sudden Liverpool step into that position with a manager in his first season who hasn't gone out and brought in a load of players. He's still working with the same tools that the previous manager had. That's got to be disheartening.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I expect us, if Man City fall away and there's an expectation, but I mean, come on, man. We were able to give Man City a real close run for their money, and now this season we're miles out. We're how many points away? Liverpool have a game in hand. If Liverpool beat Everton in then if you say a game in hand in the next game, they'll be 9 points clear. And so what? We've got to count on our short, threadbare team not dropping any more points, continually bagging 3 points, no more draws, and then praying that that Liverpool are going to drop as many points to put us in the driving seat. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think a new signing coming in, well, it gives everybody a lift, right? I bet a Man City right now.
Their quality.
If their quality, yeah. Man City, though, right?
I'm not sure Sterling's giving everybody a good lift.
Who's that?
Sterling. I'm not sure he's giving everybody a good lift, and I'm not sure Marino has either.
Sterling's walking it. He goes into Conley for his breakfast before training. He doesn't know what table to sit down at. Nobody's making eye contact with him at all. You know what I mean? Well, there
He's supposed to be a senior, well-travelled international player. Who's going to listen to him? Who's listening to Sterling?
I guess the All or Nothing documentary was true to its name. We know which side of the stick we got this season out of all the comps. Yeah. Well, we're out of the cup competition now in a season that we had hoped, Stan, we could do something in the domestic cups at least. So what are we going to do? It's got to be the league and it's got to be the Champions League now. And many have said, I think you might be one of them, to just concentrate on the Champions League now because the standard of refereeing is just a little bit higher, just a little bit better, you know, than the Premier League. And I actually agree with you in terms of the PGMOL have something against Arsenal this season, and we are being refereed at an unbelievably high standard. If they're going to call it that way within the actual letter of the law, without any um, reason for you know thinking about in the context of what happened. I saw Virgil van Dijk today making another challenge on Richarlison, and I don't care about Tottenham. I don't care about Liverpool. Whoever won today, that's fine. I happen to think Newcastle and Isak are on a mission right now to win this competition, but Virgil van Dijk gets away with these things every week, every day of the week. He usually, he's like an old fashioned centre back, Virgil van Dijk. He puts one on a striker. Lets him know he's there, but
And he's allowed
he's
to do
really
that.
he's allowed to do it. The referees allow it. They see it and they allow it. But for Arsenal, if Saliba's doing that or Gabriel would do that, it's a yellow card each and every day. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's been it's been a situation now where we need to take a timeout, go to Dubai, recharge the batteries. It's been a tough month when you think about it, and we're going to get out of here in the next 5 or 6 minutes here. But Stan, it's been a tough month when you take January into account, and these I think 2 games in February as well. We played something like 11 games in something like 35 days. So it's really been every 3 days, just been a game. Um, we won at Brentford on New Year's Day, 3-1. A very good win at Brentford. We drew with Brighton in the league. And I'm just going to go through the league games. We drew with Brighton. We beat Tottenham in the league, which was a tough game to get past. Very disappointing 2-2 draw with Aston Villa. So we've gone win, draw, and then we just about beat Wolverhampton Wanderers in that contentious game. Then we play Man City and beat them 5-1. So it's been a very mixed league in the last 5 or 6 games. Some draws, some big wins, but it's been very inconsistent. I'm hoping when we come back after this trip that it will be, more consistent wins. We put some wins together and put some pressure on Liverpool. We're running out of games here.
Agreed.
Uh, Domestic cups, right? We lose to Newcastle 2-0 in January. Nothing changed yesterday. We lost 2-0 again, a 4-0 aggregate. Very, very disappointing to go out of cups. Manchester United, uh, if you tried to lose the game in that way, again, you couldn't write the script to lose that game. You give up a goal. Uh, uh, you give up one chance against Manchester United. They score. We get a goal back. Odegaard misses a penalty. Havertz misses a penalty in the shootout. We're out of the cup again at home to another big team. We lost to Liverpool last season. The only bright light has really been the Champions League then, where we were pretty 2 easy wins in the Champions League stand against Zagreb and Girona. And Girona, speaking about Girona, it showed the quality of one area again. This is a kid that's shown up in every competition this season. And him and Miles Lewis Kelly will probably finish off with those two, Stan, that they've been the two bright lights in our season.
Yeah, and I just think that we've probably. I don't want to be a. I don't want to put a downer on it. I just think maybe we've gone as far as we can go for this Champions League because I just think that we're so thin. You know?
Well, we're probably 5 or 6 weeks away before we play a Champions League game again. Does that help?
Well, there'll be other games in between that.
Yeah, there'll be
And
Premier League games.
we've got to continue to play the same players, irrespective of form. And now we've got Martinelli out. I don't know how long he's going to be. I don't know how long he's going to be out for. I've not heard anything. It's just more pressure on us.
Yeah. Okay.
It means that we're going to have to see more.
Sense.
We're going to have to see more of players like Raheem Sterling, and he's already shown us this season that he's just not up to it.
Yeah. We'll have to see what happens, and if Bukayo Saka comes back from injury in probably latter part of next month, late March. Only when
you've got to hope with someone like Saka that there'll be no setbacks. Mm-hmm. It's going to take time for him to get back up to speed. He's got to be treated with kid gloves. You know, we can't be rushing him back and having breakdown in his first match.
Yeah, yeah. Only when the Champions League can rid ourselves of the demons. We want to be at that table. We want to be able to talk about having won the Champions League. Starting next season with a star above the badge, and the league will follow. And maybe having a striker as well at the same time. You know what I mean? All right, Stan, we'll leave it there. Have you got anything else to say or anything to add?
No, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that has come into the show. A lot of good things being said in the chat box. It's a shame that we couldn't have, been talking about getting into a final. I think the conversation's been balanced, although we haven't had a lot of positives. I don't think it's been a rant. I think we've tried to look at everything equally, and I hope the next time I come back and I see you all again, that we've got some good things to talk about, because I don't like having to have these kind of conversations. I take no pleasure from it. I was, really hoping that when I came back after the transfer window, that we'd have new players to talk about, and that we'd be able to be looking ahead to a Carabao Cup final. But that's not the case.
Yeah, we had that anticipation of maybe we'll be talking about something that the club did to help us this season, but it just feels like we've been left to our devices for this season, and that's your lot.
They just didn't bother, basically. They just didn't bother. As I keep saying, we have the resources, but from where I'm sitting, we just haven't the will to get things done. And that's very disappointing for a club as big as we are, and a club that's trying to challenge for things.
There's many different ways of saying the same thing. They just didn't bother, or they decided to hold their nerve until the summer. It means the same thing, or that you wrote off the rest of the season, because in a business sense, we're not buying in any more supplies. We're not buying in any more talent. We're not investing in the company to be able to realize its sporting potential. And we're going to roll the dice with whoever you have. We feel you'll probably finish in the top 4, and maybe if you excel and go on a run again like last season, you might trouble Liverpool. But listen, we'll see what happens. Always with Arsenal, it seems like we're waiting till the next week. We're waiting till the next month. We're waiting till the next season. And maybe the next window, Stan, where they promise us they will go big in that season. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Do hit the like button on your way out if you have not. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks again, Stan, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Out of here. We're off to Dubai, Stan and I. We're going to sun ourselves on the beach and take in some salt by. Take care, everyone.